You progressively, you can't like, if you're a D2, you can't all of a sudden decide you're going to be a D6. This is a process of building frequency and building Kelon codes. And each dimension has a certain number of Kelon codes. So you build these, then you have to build these before you can get to here. So we're here, and our next phase is building these Kelon codes into our crystal bodies and into our auric fields. When we begin activating the chakras, the higher chakras up here, we are activating the morphogenetic fields out of which we came. When we activate morphogenetic fields up here, it has a direct effect on how the Kelons in our crystal bodies are acting down here. So the process of becoming conscious of our evolution is becoming conscious of what chakras connect to what dimensional frequencies and what level of energy you need to bring in next. Okay? Let me see if I'm skipping anything here. All right, I said this, but I'm going to say it again. In this 15-dimensional scale, the dimensions 1 through 7 in our particum universe are made of particum particles. The morphogenetic fields of 9 through 15 are made of partichi particles. Okay, that's going to be important in understanding what it is we're trying to do when we're consciously evolving. Okay, because basically we need to transmute our particum particles into partichi units of pure consciousness, which would look like light if we saw them. So we're changing our dense matter into light, if you want to look at it in a simple term. But it's really, we're changing our particum units back into the morphogenetic field partichi units. And we do that by incorporating the pattern of our double. All right, so here's where our double and our evolution goes hand in hand. We evolve at the same time because our energy fields are intimately connected. If you remember the partichi unit that was the original morphogenetic field, that was the original pattern that both we and our double came out of. So to get back to that pattern, it puts you and the double back together. And that's, when we're talking back together, we're not talking about two bodies standing there and going zap. We're talking about the crystal body, the Kelon structure of our energetic grids. We are slowly, if we and our double are like this, we're slowly merging those grids into one identity and into one biology. And eventually, when that completely finishes, we're no longer in manifestation. Okay? There's a lot to that process. I'm going to cover some of the basics tonight. Okay, this parallel universe and our double, the auric field correspondences. Okay. Now, here we are in our particum universe. We have dimensions 1 through 7, where we will evolve through, we're down here, we're going to evolve through having our soul body, which still has matter, but it's less dense. Okay, and these are our morphogenetic fields, our higher levels of identity. To assign levels of identity, you could look at 1, 2, and 3 as our incarnate self, 4, 5, and 6 as our soul self. 7, 8, and 9 would be our oversoul. 10, 11, and 12 would be our avatar level of identity, and completely out of form, out of matter form. And 13, 14, and 15 would be the rishi. They call them solar rishi because they're like big flaming balls of light. So this is our basic path of evolution where we're growing in consciousness and evolving. Now, over here in the parallel 15-dimensional matrix, okay, the numbers, if you're going to look at, use these diagrams to conceptualize what is taking place. It runs the opposite way. And again, there's correspondences. Our D1 corresponds with their D15, etc. If our physical being is taking place between 1 and 7, and so is theirs, and these dimensions are overlapped and taking place in the same place, you come out with one of these, okay? Here's us, and here's our double. We're energetically linked, and the way it turns out is this area here, which would be the morphogenetic field for the double, that's this area down here. That becomes our auric field, okay? The auric field that, psychics see around us and everything, what we are seeing is the higher identity aspect, the morphogenetic field of our double. And our morphogenetic fields here are the auric field of our double. And as we, it's hard to describe a little bit. I don't have, I don't have it down as in pictures as much as I would like to, but I'll try to describe this process because it is complicated. And if people are going like, what is this? I will try to explain this as best as I can. Okay, so we have our auric field down here. And this is where this is going to come in handy. All right. Here's our auric field. If we were looking at just ourselves, I don't know if you can see this or not. Let me hold this up. Okay. We have the basic 7 levels of our auric field, and there's some very good books on this. You don't need to listen to me to learn about this. Okay, there's a lot of very good books about that. We also have the extended auric field of the 15-dimensional structure, and the first 7 would involve these areas here, and the rest of them would involve the morphogenetic patterns. All right, so we're dealing with a chakra system that's plugged in to the auric fields and also to each of the dimensions. You could take this little onion-looking thing and plug it right into here, where the levels would correspond with dimensions 1 through 7. Right, you're pulling in frequency. If you're, all right, you have a base chakra, and that's associated with the frequencies of the first dimension, and that's associated with what they call the etheric body. That, if psychics can usually see it, it's a little bluish-grayish haze that you can see running along your physical body. Now, your auric field in general has layers to it. First you have your etheric body, then you have a little further out your emotional body, then your mental body. Now, each of these levels of the auric field corresponds with a chakra in the physical body. You know, the first base chakra with the first, etc., all the way up to 7. All right, so this is this area. Now, what most people don't realize is that area of energy around us, called the aura, is actually the morphogenetic patterns of our double. And as we start to activate the higher chakras, let's say if we were here in this section down here where the red numbers, let's say if we activate the 9th chakra, we start to bring in the frequencies from the 7th dimension in our doubles universe. We activate the 10th, we start bringing in the 6th. We are pulling together the Partakai patterns, the Kilon codes that are in the doubles universe. As we activate our higher chakras, we're pulling in the frequencies of the parallel universe. And as we do that, we are breaking down the dimensional barriers within our own auric field. All right, the auric field, I don't really have diagrams to illustrate this yet, but let me try to explain this. Okay. The auric field has layers like an onion, okay? Except they're not exactly like an onion where you can peel them off. They're intermeshed, okay? Each layer goes all the way through the next one, like they run right through each other. There are bands of polarization that occur between them. There's also bands of polarization between the chakras. Polarization is when the particles in one are flashing at a different rate than the particles in the next one. This gives us our dimensionalized experience, where we get our individuated focus and the experience of being in a physical body and perceiving time, space, and matter. Okay, these illusions of perception are caused by the way energy is structured in the dimensional matrix. Now, as we bring in energies from our morphogenetic field and we begin to pull in the Partakai particles of our double, it begins to change our auric field, and it starts at the outer levels. Okay, we have a crown chakra that corresponds with the 7th level in our aura. As we begin to transmute the particum units, because they're still made of particum from D1 through 7, and our system would be particum particles. All right, as we begin to transmute the particum particles in the 7th level of our aura, we will transmute all of these into Partakai. They become pure consciousness. They begin to vibrate higher and faster. They no longer hold a lower vibration. There's something called a seal inside each chakra. Okay, inside the 7th chakra, which is the crown chakra, there is a seal. It's a particular Kilon code configuration. After we bring in all the frequencies before that seal, and then we hit that seal, the seal opens, and it opens the auric field into the next level, which would be the 6th one. So you're working your way down. You're taking this huge auric field that sticks out about 300 feet around you, and you're first transmuting the outer levels of it into light and pure consciousness, which breaks the barrier between that and the next level down. So you break, between the 7 and 6, you break down. Then you finish transmuting these. Slowly, you work your way down into bringing this unified energy field into yourself. When you get to the last 3 seals, and I won't cover the seals heavily tonight because it's real technical and I don't have the diagrams to get into it heavily, but every chakra has a little seal, and it's a Keylon code. It would look like a crystal, like a certain crystal configuration at the center of the chakras. When you get to the 3rd one, when the 3rd seal opens, your identity is so large, you're bringing in so much frequency, you can no longer be in a body. It transmutes the whole physical body completely out of manifestation. And it's because of this. All right, here's our 3rd level of the aura, our 3rd chakra. This corresponds with the 13th level of our double's morphogenetic field. The 13th level is the planetary consciousness. So when you remove the seal here in the 3rd chakra, it completely blows your identity open into planetary consciousness because you pull in the pattern of the D13 frequencies from the parallel universe. So these last 3 seals, when they are released, completely take you into first planetary consciousness, then galactic consciousness, then you are the consciousness of the unified field and you're out of here. That's when you get to go into the energy matrix and worry about evolving on an entity level. So we are in the process. As we activate the higher chakra centers in our own morph field, it triggers the activation of the frequencies in our double, which merges those 2, turns them into light, and opens the seals, which progressively brings the light in our auric field down closer and closer and closer until it's completely centered in our body, and then when the last 3 fields go, we turn into light and go. Now, usually it takes a lot of incarnations to get to the point where you can do that. They call this dimensional ascension, when a being can actually bring all this energy into their bodies and completely transmute. Usually 1 out of the soul family of 12, 1 of them will ascend. And when they do, they transmute the pattern of all of the other ones with them. So nobody gets stuck down here. You can get stuck down here for a number of millennia, but you're not stuck here forever, because eventually 1 in your soul family will transmute for all of you and bring all of you back up into the Rishi identity. But we begin to understand the collaborative effort when we realize we're part of a group of 12 souls that's part of a group of 144 incarnates, and it's a large family here. What we do and the choices we make in our life today, what we choose to do with our energy fields today, will directly affect how fast or slow our whole soul family is going to be able to evolve and to return to source. And we can affect the other incarnates, and they can affect us. It's important to understand this process, because once we understand it, it gives you a purpose for wanting to become aware of your energy fields, wanting to become aware of how to work with them, what it means to have them. This is a kind of a complicated process there's new material, and I'm trying to introduce it to you today in simple terms, which isn't really easy to do. So I hope I'm not losing people with it. But basically, we are evolving by pulling in the Keylon codes and the frequencies of our double in the parallel universe. We are pulling those 2 universes together. And we're involved in this, but our planet's involved in it too. It runs on larger cycles than we do. All we need to worry about is learning how to find our chakra system, where our chakras are, what they're connected to, and begin activating them so we can begin turning our particum particles into particae, merging ourselves with the morphogenetic field, turning ourselves back into pure consciousness, because that's what we were before we came here. We worked our way down. We entered actually at the 14th level and then began to expand our identity outward. That's how the different levels of our soul family were formed. Actually, on the 15th dimensional level, we are all of them. And just like we can look back on childhood memories and say, well, that was me, but at a different stage of development, from this level of awareness, you look back on all of the beings here, all 144, of your immediate family, they were all you. But from here, it's a little hard to explain. But we came in from D14. We came in through D8, and then first individuation started at D14. And then we progressively moved our way down. Now we got to just move our way back, collecting frequency as we go. And it's really not a hard process if you can try to understand it from an intuitive level. Instead of, right now as I'm trying to describe this, it would probably be easier for people to get what I'm saying if instead of trying to feel it with your mental focus here, if you notice that your mental focus is here, you're going to feel energy here, because it's these 2 chakras that are trying to process this data. This is higher level data. It works better if you try to push your energy out. Just your mental awareness. Just take a breath and push it out to here. And just try to draw in what's being said so it can translate through your own system intuitively. That will probably help. It's much easier to understand some of these things from an intuitive level than it is from a logical, rational level. We're working on that part, but, like getting it across that way. But we're understanding right now. We always communicate with each other on multiple levels, but usually we're only aware of this level. If you try to reach your energy field out around your head, pretend you blew yourself up and you're bigger now. Try to feel what this information means from that level, and it will probably click at some point for you. You'll get a gist of it. You'll get a feel of it. And eventually I will, have more intensive information on this whole process. It's going to be in part 4 of the transcript book that we're working on. But for now, I just wanted to introduce it, I think primarily so we understand this intimate relationship we have with our double in the parallel universe, and the intimate relationship the Earth body has with this parallel Earth. And it would be nice if it was just as complicated as that, but it gets worse because there are also something called probable selves, which some people mistake as doubles. They look like us, but they are not the same thing as the complete double. Both we and our double have probable selves. They have the same body pattern, the same image, the same identity, but they've developed along different lines. And the probable selves emerge out of our free will. Actually, we have the ability to make choices other than what the original choices were when we as souls chose to incarnate here. So as souls, we decided that there were certain things we wanted to accomplish through a cycle of incarnation. Now, each one of those incarnations still has free will. It can completely ignore its soul level purposes and go off on tangents and do whatever it wants. Every time it does that, it takes the quantity of energy that the soul assigned for that incarnate, and it breaks that energy down, it fragments it in terms of kilons, that the soul gave each incarnate a certain set of kilons to work with. And the incarnate's purpose really is to build more kilons into that kilon, which expands the soul and creates the evolutionary process. But sometimes when we're not in tune with our souls, and we forget we have them when we go making choices, we don't know why, and we don't know what our purpose is for being here, we create probable versions of ourselves, and they literally become people, just like we are, okay? I have had a couple of people have explained to me that they've run into this, where they see people that are very much like their doubles here. If you see them here, they're not your double from the parallel universe. They're a probable self. And in some way or another, your energies are integrating into each other. There's something called, and I like the term that was used in the Seth material that was channeled by Jane Roberts. Seth called it the heroic probability. Okay, that is the probability or the path of development, path of evolution that was originally set by the soul. Okay, before it incarnated, before it sent its incarnates into manifestation. A person who chooses to follow its heroic probability gives its free will back to itself as a soul. And it says, I just want to follow this path. I don't want to fragment myself all over. Because when you start to make choices that are not in line with what you originally came for, instead of building kilons into your crystal body and building up your field, you're fragmenting it into smaller and smaller pieces. Before you can worry about incorporating your higher dimensional aspects, you got to pull the energy of your probable selves back together first. And in energy terms, if we looked at it like in terms of physics and what particles are doing, it would probably drive even me crazy trying to figure it out on that level. To even translate the data on that level is very difficult. But it's not hard when we realize that there's some very simple techniques we can learn to align ourselves with that heroic probability. And it's not like you have this big bad soul that's making you do things or anything. This soul is you at a higher level. And it's just like we come down here, we forget about ourselves, we forget who we were before we came here, and we get lost in the illusion. There are some real simple meditation techniques and just levels of awareness you can hold and say, hey, okay, I have a heroic probability. How many people knew that before? Did anybody know that before?
No.
Doesn't it help to know that? That, wow, at some level I already had this all figured out, didn't I? Why don't I just follow my plan? You know what I mean? And the second step, after recognizing that you do have this heroic probability, this path of fulfilling the purpose that you came for, you can, I just lost my train of thought, I'm sorry. Interesting. Okay. Excuse me a minute. Getting a little bit of interesting energy feedback in my energy field here. Sorry about that. Okay, the second step, after you recognize that you have your heroic probability, you can begin to open yourself to finding out more about that by opening yourself to channel your higher self. Your higher self is the part of you, of your personal identity here, that serves as a liaison between your soul identity, which is a collective of 12, and your oversoul. So you can begin to work with energy here, with your mind, learn to use your mind in certain ways, learn to use your focus and to direct it through your chakras in certain ways, to teach yourself new tricks on a mental level so you can receive data directly from your soul matrix. And the part of you that enables that, it's like making a bridge between the third dimensional frequencies part of your consciousness and the fourth. The higher self will be a bridge between those two levels. And they're going to do some energy techniques tonight a little bit to give you an idea of how to play with this. It's playing with energy. You know, we all take it so seriously because it is important, but we need to be able to loosen up and trust. We do have this level of our identity called the soul, and even more beyond that. But what we need to worry about now is establishing a conscious relationship with that part of ourselves, creating this higher self aspect of our mental identity here that says, okay, I remember I have a soul, and I want to know what my soul is telling me now. Yeah, it will give you a sense of guidance that you cannot find anywhere in the outside world. No religious authority or scientific authority is going to be able to give you the level of guidance you will be able to find once you tap into that part of your own self. And most people don't even think about doing it because a lot of people don't even realize we have a soul, or they think the soul is something separate from us, or it's this like abstract concept. It's not. It's a legitimate portion of our identity. It's composed of particles like we are, but they're not as dense matter. And it's a level of ourself we have to remember. It's like being in a dream and forgetting you're there. It's like, oh, yeah, I do have a waking identity. Let me wake up. Well, we need to wake up back into the awareness that we were as souls. And that's where we'll get our guidance. So what I want to do tonight, like for the rest of tonight, instead of going over any more of the technical data, I would like to just do some energy exercises to start opening that process. Now, one of the neatest ones, and this is going to be a short one, I wanted to do a quick one because we did a kind of a longer meditation last time, and you kind of like, you know, everybody kind of fades off. Some people fall asleep and it gets tiring. We just want to give you a real quick one. It's called the Blue Flame Meditation. And finally told me what this is doing, Patty. I was like, okay, we've been doing this for years. What is it doing? You know? Okay, the Blue Flame Meditation is a mental visualization exercise that we can use to help begin preparing our chakra system here and our energy fields and our body to receive the energies from the higher dimensions, from the morphogenetic patterns, from the higher chakras. Okay, what it does, when we visualize the blue flame, that is a translation into visual imagery of the frequencies of the fifth dimension. All right, the fifth dimension holds a part of our energy system, a part of our auric field called the etheric template. The etheric template sets the pattern for our etheric body, which is the one that's closest to the skin. And that sets the template for our DNA and how that's going to run. So when you merge the fifth dimensional etheric template into the physical body, you are bringing the center of the soul consciousness down into embodiment. So it's an easy exercise just to help you bring in and get focused into your body, the soul identity. Okay, and it's very easy. You can. When they first taught me this, I imagined a gas flame. You know how it's blue? Mm-hmm. That helped a lot. And then I turned it even more intense. In fact, that picture right there, this I'm going to bring on so you can see it in the video. This was when I first started using this technique, some of the experiences I had with it. I don't know if you could see this with the video. This is kind of the coloring that I saw when they showed me what the blue flame looked like. It's like even more intense than a gas flame. Mm-hmm. And we're basically going to breathe it down into our chakra system. And we're first going to center it into our heart chakra and then move it all the way down through the ground and into the center of the earth. And then we're going to feel ourselves standing in the middle of it, as if we're in the middle of blue flames, like that. Mm-hmm. And then we're just going to breathe. Because once you bring that in, when you're mentally directing this energy, you are bringing this energy down into your field, and it's coming into your auric field. You're bringing it from the 5th level down this way. And when you start to breathe in, you are breathing it into the cells. It is beginning the process of transmuting the particum units into higher level particum units. First, you have to translate them on that level before you can up-level them to the, to the morphogenetic fields. So it's a very good centering exercise. It's short, it's sweet, and if ever you need to just clear, where you want to make everything go away and you just need to escape because the world's really bothering you that day, it's very helpful to just go into this meditation, center yourself in the center of that blue flame, and let it heal you, because it will if you allow it. It'll adjust your whole energy template down here with its higher soul level version. It basically aligns you with your archetype. You could say like the perfect version of your body, the highest level of your body pattern. It will align you with that. Okay, so I would like to make the light a little more dim, if that's okay. For the meditation, it's kind of distracting. Okay, we back on? Okay, everybody ready? Let's just start with 3 slow inhale, exhale, and then a final inhale and a very quick exhale, which is a cleansing breath. It just moves energy, stagnant energy out of your system. After that, then I will verbalize the meditation and try to visualize the images as clearly as you can, and try to feel, be aware of what can I feel in me and around me, not just what can I think or what can I see or hear, but what can I feel. Focus on the word feeling, that sensation, because you may have some. The more you use this meditation, the more you will find sensation. I've had some awesome sensations where I felt like my whole body was electric sometimes, but you have to be really focused into it to get to that level. But, so try to be aware of feeling as we do this. So I'll count with the breaths, and then after the cleansing breath, we'll go right into the blue flame meditation. Okay. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale. Inhale. Exhale quickly. Now, become aware of your consciousness behind your closed eyelids. Become aware of the feel of your consciousness on the inside of your head. Imagine in the space right between your eyebrows, but on the inside. Imagine that you see a point of light there, and focus your consciousness upon that point of light. Move the stream of your consciousness toward that light, closer and closer, as if you were walking yourself toward a sun. At first it seems very tiny in the distance, and as you move closer and closer to it, it seems to become larger and larger. Imagine yourself as consciousness moving toward the spot of light on the inside of your head, between your eyebrows, until you are standing before a blazing sun, and your consciousness is just a small unit of awareness compared to the size of this blazing light. Observe for a moment the sensation of the largeness of this light compared to the size of your consciousness. Let the awe of this light fill you as you acknowledge you are dealing with a level of energy that is massive in size compared to your own. Now, picture this large sun of energy inside of your head, turning first to a pale violet color with flickers of gold running through it, as if the sun took on different hues, and you could see the flames encircling the sphere of light. And they are violet, and they are gold. And as they interact with each other, they are now turning into a crystalline white. Use your consciousness to build these colors until you can see them on your inner vision. Imagine them there, and the more you imagine, the clearer your vision will become. When you observe the golden and violet flames merging to form white, and you see more whiteness covering your sphere of energy that is in your head, it is time to merge yourself with this sun. The smallness of your consciousness as it was will now enter into that massive ball of energy and light. You will become that ball of energy and light. You are no longer small. You have expanded now. You have walked into the white light of the sphere within your head. Breathe for a moment as you see yourself standing within this glowing sphere of white energy. Feel the white light moving through you from all directions. Feel it tingle like electricity running through your cells. It will feel as if you are nearly floating. Feel yourself becoming lighter and lighter, less dense, less heavy, as you are centered within this globe of glowing light within your head. Now, within the center of this globe of glowing light, picture before yourself a small flame of vibrant blue coming out of the center of this glowing ball. You are in the center of the sphere of the glowing white ball, and as you observe, you are seeing a small blue flame emerge. It is a standing wave pattern of blue energy. As consciousness now, choose to create a small image of your body as you know it. Here, see a small version of yourself standing before this small blue flame. The small blue flame will be about 2 inches high, and you will see it down by your feet. With your mind that is now focused within the small body, the little version of you within the globe of light. With your mind, direct that flame and request from it, from the consciousness of the flame, request, I call to the entity of the blue flame. You are calling the frequencies of the 5th dimension into your consciousness and into your body. Watch the entity of the blue flame come to life. The 2-inch flame now grows. It becomes 4, it becomes 6. And suddenly you find yourself standing before a 20-foot column of blue blazing glory. This is energy. This is consciousness. This is a portion of your soul's consciousness. The entity of the blue flame is the entity of your identity as a soul, and it knows you intimately. It is not strange to you, and once you remember this level of identity, you will know yourself as the blue flame. But for now, as we become reacquainted with ourselves, we are watching a 20-foot tall blue blazing glory before our eyes in our little body inside the sphere. Let us now step into that flame. Blue flame does not burn. In fact, it is so hot that it actually feels cold when you enter your small body into it. Picture yourself now stepping in to the flame with no fear. You will not be harmed. You will be healed. First you put in one foot, and as you start to enter the flame, become aware of the feeling. Put your hand up and feel as your hand starts to enter. Feel the energy. For if you become involved in this visualization, you will be able to put out your physical hand and you will begin to, in correspondence with your small body hand, you will be able to feel a sense of resistance and fuzzy vibration as your little body hand goes through into the blue flame. It is important to become used to connecting the movements of the physical body here with the movements of the little body that you are visualizing in multidimensional energy exchanges. So as you are moving into the blue flame in your visualization, put out your hand there and put it out here and feel. Begin to feel the fuzzy, warm chill of energy. It's warm, but it's cold. It's hard to describe in typical human terms. Now, you are going to put the other hand outward and touch the blue flame that you are getting ready to step into fully. Feel the vibration of the blue flame before you in your little body. Feel the vibration run through the physical hands in your physical body here, where you are bringing in physical energy from the unified field of the fifth dimension in through your palms here in the physical, when you correspond the actions with the visualization with the physical actions. Now, we are touching the blue flame, the column of blue flame. Now, we can revert to visualizing this, but if you are home alone, you may want to actually try this physically, where you would physically stand up. And as you are visualizing your body moving into the blue flame, you would literally take a step in physical sense to where you would imagine that blue flame to be. So we will go now, since we are in a small room, we will not do that part. We will go to our small body. We have pushed our hands all the way in to the blue flame. And now we are going to take the first step. And we are going to take the second step until we are standing inside of the blue flame. Once you are inside of the blue flame, breathe deeply and slowly. Tell your body that it is time to adopt the soul breathing rhythm. And this may change the normal breathing rhythm of your body. It may slow it down. Say, I will breathe the soul breath now. And allow the adjustments to happen, for your soul will make those adjustments for you. And breathe several times while in the blue flame. We will just do it once or twice now, but if you use this exercise at home, breathe as many times as feels appropriate to you for each meditation that you do, because it may change from time to time. Once you are centered within the blue flame and you are standing there, visualize the flames coming up through the bottoms of your feet. See the little cells in your body, each one of them, having a blue flame burst into the center of the nucleus of the cells. Imagine with your mind the DNA turning bright blue and little bursts of fire, little blue flames emerging out of the DNA strands. We will do this up from the bottom of our feet, slowly, all the way up through the entire body. That would take quite some time to do right now. So again, if you use this technique at home, take the time to make the feeling real, where you feel the blue flame becoming activated within your cells, within the feet, within the legs, within the knees, all the way up until you have completed at the top of the head. And once you have completed and merged this blue flame energy, this frequency of the fifth dimension, this frequency of your etheric template, once you have merged it with your cellular code of your body here, you will begin to prepare for higher frequencies from the higher chakras to be brought in. So we are standing in the middle of our blue flame.
And we feel each little cell burst into a wonderful blue flame at the center of it. We feel a cooling sensation, not cold, but a cooling, calming sensation, as if we were immersed in a sea of very comfortable temperature water, and we are floating in the water. As each area of our cells goes through the blue flame activation, we will feel the sensation of floating in the water. We will feel the comfort of it. If there's any area in our body that feels tightness or darkness or pain or tension, we will bring more of the blue flame into that area and watch it ignite. We will literally use the blue flame to burn away discomfort within the physical body. Once we have moved the blue flame through our system, and we are standing within the middle of the blue flame as we do this, we will request of the body consciousness of our physical bodies here. The heart chakra will now open. It will now accept the blue flame. What this request is doing is allowing the astral body to open and accept the frequencies of the fifth dimension and the etheric template. Once the astral body has accepted this, you can then request that the mental awareness put aside all judgments and allow the blue flame to become one with the physical body. The blue flame is now centered within your physical body. You, as a small little self, are inside the blue flame. A sphere of bright light is around you in the blue flame. And now, that sphere of light and all that is within it is centered within your body. First, at the fourth chakra, the heart chakra, which is right in the center of the chest. And then move that ball of light down into the third chakra, which is the solar plexus chakra. This is moving the frequencies of D5 into the mental body. You will now move it down one more to the second chakra, which is the sacral chakra. It is down below the navel. You see the blue energy emanating out of the sphere of white light. You see the blue waves of energy coming out and clearing all through your second chakra, moving all through the auric field right around your body. It is clearing your emotional body now. It is healing and alignment. And finally, we will bring the ball of white light with its blue flame emanations down into the base chakra. We will again see the frequencies of blue light emanating outward like a starburst. We will feel our physical cells responding to the magnetic pull of our etheric template. We are being pulled into alignment with the ideal pattern for our body and our energy. We will now see the blue flame engulf us in the physical body. Use your mind and imagine and visualize the flame around you, surrounding you as a huge pillar of light. Feel the kinetic energy as it jumps near your skin. For if you focus heavily into this visualization, you will feel physical response. You will feel the hairs on your arms rising perhaps, or you'll feel tingling or coldness or warmness or numbness. You will feel something if you continue to work with the blue flame vision. Once you have centered yourself in the physical within the blue flame, breathe slowly and deeply for as long as feels right to you. And then give yourself the command, which will be heard on many levels, including the subconscious level, including the body consciousness level. I accept the path of my soul. I open to receive the truth and guidance of my soul. I acknowledge that I am my soul, and I will reawaken now. At times when you use this meditation, and if you focus within the energies very severely, you may lose consciousness briefly at that point. You may find yourself what appears to falling asleep. But what is really happening is there is a linking taking place between the three-dimensional part of your awareness and the fifth-dimensional part of your awareness. As you use the meditation more, you will not get a tired feeling or feel like you're losing focus. You will become able to focus more and more. And the image to hold, once you train your subconscious mind and your body to know the basic, you can do a slower version or a longer version or a shorter version of this exercise. But once you bring in this pattern of bringing the blue flame into the body, you can instantly recall that sensation and create the same energy effect. After about 3 weeks of practice, you will be able to simply close your eyes, visualize a blue flame around you, and create the same energy effect that it took you 45 minutes to do before. So it's a process of training your neurological structure and training your consciousness to handle these new frequencies. This is the beginning exercise in preparing your system for activations on the higher levels. Because if you don't, and you try to bring in higher level energy, you will get much conscious confusion. You will get pieces of data. You will feel stress for no reason. You will feel fatigued. You will feel physically fatigued. So you need to begin working up. We are opening the energies between here and here. We're shifting the focus of the frequencies in the body and the consciousness from here up into here. Instead of just bringing these down, we are going to meet in the middle. We begin activating these, and we will work with these also. But for now, the blue flame technique is a very, very powerful tool for when you are dealing with the blue flame. You are dealing with the core identity of your soul. It is real, it is valuable, it is real in terms of energy and frequency and kilons and particle, and it is very real in terms of identity and the next step in your consciousness and oneness with our Creator. So I suggest working with this energy, and it will teach you what you can do with it. There are many, many things you can do with the blue flame once you learn to hold it in your body. But the first step is learning to hold it in your body, and then learning to ask it, what can I do with this, and what is appropriate for me? For you will find you're not just dealing with an energy pattern, you are dealing with an identity. And when you ask it questions, it will give them back answers. This is how you start the communication process and opening the door between your mental focus here and the mental awareness, your higher mental awareness of your soul. There are many ways to open the channel, as people call it. The blue flame is one of the easiest, quickest, and most effective. And that's why we gave it to you tonight. For there will be many, many questions. As the more information we present will probably become more complex. You will be able to go within. And if you use the blue flame, you will be able to find your own answers. And hopefully that will be our gift to you.
Thank you.
So I think we are done for the evening. For now, I would like to do a little energy sensing exercise for maybe 10 minutes after we have a little break. But that's about it for the class for this evening, unless there's any questions anybody would like answered. Not that?
Well, thank you all for being here tonight, and I'd like to welcome the new people to the class who haven't been here before. And this is the third class in a series of, we're not sure how many yet, probably about 4. We're going to try to keep it simple. Just for a really quick rundown for the new people, in the first class we introduced something called the science of Kilanta, and we got into the primary elements of Kilanta. That information and the video for that is available if you are interested. In the second class, we got into a little bit broader spectrum of the structure of the cosmic matrix, which is the basic energy structure within which our universe and all universes reside within the cosmos. We got into that a bit and what that means in terms of our evolution as individuals and as a collective, as a species. In this class, the third, what I would like to do is kind of pick up where we left off with the cosmic matrix. I'll cover that just a little bit for the people who have missed it, and I'm going to elaborate on that. Tonight, I would like to talk about where we came from. And when we understand a bit of where we came from, we'll be able to understand a bit more about where we're going. We're a part of an evolving race, and that much our science has identified. But what that means, science has not been able to tell us because science doesn't know. There's a lot of speculation as to why we are here, and what does it mean to be human, and what are we connected to. Our scientific traditions tend to look backward in time to find relics to give us answers to those questions so we can understand our past, so perhaps we can understand more about our present and what it means to be human and what we are. Underneath all of those investigations, I do believe we're looking for the purpose of our existence, why we are here. So we look for where we came from, what are our roots, to understand some of what it means to be human now, so we understand maybe where we're going. In tonight's discussion, I'm going to present some information that was given to me by the Guardian Alliance that will be very controversial if you've been schooled in traditional earthly thinking. It is a history, and I'm going to leave out a lot simply because it would take a very long time to cover the whole history. But it's basically a history of our origins, and our origins are very different than what science has, at this time, formulated their ideas around. We did not come out of the apes, they came out of us, some of them. The early man, as our history has identified, some of them were connected to us, others were completely independent races that evolved at different times with us, but that weren't connected to us. There's so much to our history that we have not had exposure to, and I would like to bring some of that information to you tonight as it was presented to me by the Guardian Alliance. In order to understand our history, we are also going to need to understand a little bit about the way a 15-dimensional universe works, because there is much more to the universe than our little solar systems, or even than the massive galaxies that we're able to see with our telescopes and the Hubble space, telescope and all that. There's much more to reality than even those massive things. So I'm going to give a bit of a structure of what it means to be in a 15-dimensional matrix. And then I am going to show you where our basic genetic pattern came from. And I hope I'm able to convey this information to you in a way that somehow, at least intuitively, I can pass on the meaning of this. There is a meaning within understanding these things through which our whole self-concept of a race is redefined. There's a part of ourselves that has been lost for centuries and centuries that has been completely unavailable to us, but intuitively we have sensed a longing for and a lack of. When I was presented with this information by the Guardian Alliance, something opened up in me, and it knew that this was true, and it reconnected me as an individual to the universe. And I was able to find a greater love for our species because I saw its place within the greater scheme of things. We were a grand species once. We were not apes. And to understand this, I hope I can convey somehow through what I discussed this evening, the beauty and the meaning of what it means to be human. And also, once we understand that, where we have come from, we will begin to understand what is our process of evolution, where we are going. Because it is not just that we got this far and we happen to evolve to this place and there's really no direction. Evolution is not aimless. There is a purpose, there is an agenda, there are probable versions of what any species can evolve into, but there is also a primary version of what a species was intended to become. And if we can understand that, perhaps for the first time in at least the last 10,000 years, if we can grasp what we were a part of and what we were evolving toward to become, it can really change the way we feel about ourselves and our race, and we can take an active hand in trying to reach that potential more quickly, because we do have a choice in how quickly we will or will not evolve. So for tonight's discussion, I will begin where I left off with the last class. This diagram here, pretty simple looking diagram, shows the basic conceptual structure of the energy systems for what is called the cosmic matrix. At the center of the cosmic matrix, and this is a center that we will not find no matter how far we send out a rocket ship into space. There's multi-levels of dimensions to go through before you could ever find the center. But there is a center to the cosmos. It is called the unici, using the Guardian's terms. It doesn't really matter what you call it. All of our religions have taught us about this using the concept of God, because it is not just an energy source through which the whole universe is continually and perpetually fed energy. It is a source of intelligent identity as well. It is energy identity. And everything in the universe is composed of portions of identity out of the unici. We are all composed of particles that are conscious units of the unici, which means we are all composed of particles of the consciousness of God. And that alone, for me, was a very moving concept. And it's very true. This is where science and religion comes together. Energy and identity go together. Identity is energy, and energy is identity. The central source of that is the unici, and it doesn't matter what you call it. You can call it God, or you can call it the unici, or that great central source that we come out of. But it is there, and it creates and forms and holds together perpetually, forever and eternally, the entire electromagnetic structure that the rest of the universe is built upon. All right, out of the unici, there emanate 6 spirals of energy. 3 of them move in a clockwise rotation, and 3 move in a counterclockwise rotation. In the book, we get into detail on how this is formed and what those mean. But right now, I just want you to get the basic structure visually of what we are talking about when we talk about the cosmic matrix. Now, in each, there are basically 3 arms in the cosmic matrix. At the end of each end of the arms, there's something called a 15-dimensional matrix. And if you'll notice, there would be 6 of them. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There are 6 15-dimensional matrices, or matrices, I believe it's pronounced. Okay. Now, we, in our Earth system, resides in one of those 6 15-dimensional matrices. And in the cosmic map, we would be in this arm, and in this part of the arm right down here. All right, it's going to be a long time before we as a species, or even as individuals, have to worry about evolving from here to here. Because right now, our process of evolution is taking place within this part down here, the 15-dimensional matrix. And now I want to basically show you a little bit about how the 15-dimensional matrices are formed. Okay, now, each one of those 6 15-dimensional matrices have within them 2 15-dimensional scales. If you'll notice, the dimensions run 1, 2, 3, and then there's a flip, which is an electromagnetic turn of sorts. Energy starts to move and spin in a different direction. But the basic understanding is to understand there are 15 dimensions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, and 15. And there's one scale that you can conceptualize as running from bottom to top, and then there is another scale you can conceptualize as running in the opposite direction, where dimension 1 is the same place dimension 15 would be in this one. These run together, and they're actually superimposed over each other, so the dimensions flow through each other. So when I'm speaking of a 15-dimensional matrix that we're evolving in, we are evolving in one of these. Now, in our 15-dimensional scale, which would be this one, the energy particles, basically, even though we have them when we look under our microscopes, you will see particles that move clockwise or counterclockwise. The general flow of the microparticles in our system moves counterclockwise, while in the parallel system move clockwise. So you have 2 counter-rotating 15-dimensional scales superimposed within each other. Right now, in our 15-dimensional scale, we are right around in the 3rd dimension. But there's really more to it. That's where our consciousness is stationed as individuals. We are focusing in and perceiving through 3-dimensional perception. And I'll explain a little bit more about what that means in terms of the dimensions below it, because it's more than just 3-dimensional perception that we're seeing when we look out here. Okay, so I just want you to understand the basic layout of what a 15-dimensional matrix is. Now, This was material that I covered before. Now we're going to go into a bit new material. If I can do this without knocking down the light. There we go. Okay. My discussion tonight is going to get into where we came from, where we're going as a race. All right. Here again is our 15-dimensional scale within our 15-dimensional matrix. Okay. In the 15-dimensional scale, there are something called harmonic universes. A harmonic universe is formed by 3-dimensional bands and how they relate to each other. And in between every set of 3-dimensional bands, there's something called a repulsion zone, which is an area of magnetism that literally forces the dimensions away from each other. So each harmonic universe will become a sort of spherical reality field that is separate from the one above it. They have a different rate of pulsation of particles. So even though they are taking place in the same space, individuals focused in one harmonic universe will not be able to perceive the activity or individuals focused in another one. And this is the basic structure of what we are living in here on planet Earth in the galaxy that we know. We are in something called the first harmonic universe. It is composed of dimensions 1, 2, and 3. Dimensions 4, 5, and 6, which are the ones that are the next up in the dimensional scale, they would represent our next stage of evolution. They represent the second harmonic universe. The third harmonic universe would be represented by the center, which is dimensions 7, 8, and 9. That is the harmonic universe that every one of our consciousness had to pass through in order to expand itself into the 15-dimensional matrix. Through the third harmonic universe, we will also be able to leave the 15-dimensional matrix. The 15-dimensional matrix is what gives us the quality of perception we call time and growth through time. When we evolve through this scale and return through here, we enter a level of eternal existence that really can't even be described in time terms, in linear language. But it's a very beautiful place to be, and it is really the objective of all of our spiritual traditions. They have been trying to, in their conceptual way, lead us to the evolution through this scale and back through the center, through the third harmonic universe. Now, there is also the fourth harmonic universe here, which is composed of dimensions 10, 11, and 12. And then there's the final fifth harmonic universe, which is composed of dimensions 13, 14, and 15. So, for our discussion, we really just need to understand that there are 5 different harmonic universes within the 15-dimensional matrix that we're a part of. The only ones we really need to be concerned about now are the one we're in and the one we're going to be going to once we evolve beyond the one we're in. We are in the first harmonic universe. We are going to be going, as we evolve as a species, into the second harmonic universe. Now, in some of our traditions, we have stories of heaven. And this is what they are referring to. They are referring to a place that does exist, and it has matter, just like our world has matter, but the matter is less dense. We do have bodies there in the second harmonic universe. But our stories of heaven were trying to lead us to an understanding of how to get to the second harmonic universe, for it is much more beautiful there. Energy is much finer, consciousness is much clearer, beings are much more evolved, so we don't have the problems and the hurtful conditions that we often face here. It is a heaven compared to where we are now. All right, the harmonic universes also represent different time cycles, which means the particles that things and consciousness are composed of in those universes pulsate at different rates of speed compared to each other. In our universe, in our first harmonic universe, we are in what they call the Taran time cycle. That's the slowest moving, the slowest pulsating of the 5 harmonic universes. The next one, and as we evolve out of the Taran time cycles and move into the second harmonic universe, we will be evolving into a time cycle called the Andunk time cycle, which is the next fastest moving. And they progressively go up. The fifth one would be the fastest moving. So we actually progress from the slowest moving time cycles to the lower harmonic universes up to the top, and then we have to come back again, slow down again, to go back through the center. And that's really the process of the overall evolution. But right now all we need to worry about are the 2 time cycles, the Andunk time cycle that we are headed toward, and the Taran time cycle that we are in right now. The most important thing at this time, I believe, for us to understand about the relationship between those 2 harmonic universes is that our planet originally came from here. Earth came from here. And the planets in our solar system that we have identified, and there are 2 that we have not yet identified, they have all come out of a planet in a condition that happened to a planet in the second harmonic universe. There was, about 560 trillion years ago, and the Guardians tell me this is the closest translation of time they can get. We are dealing with 2 different time cycles. It's very hard to translate amounts of time from one system in relation to the other, but in our time terms, in our time concepts, it would be about 560 trillion years ago. There was a planet formed within the second harmonic universe, and that planet's name was Terra. And Terra evolved for many, many millions and millions of years. Now, when we're dealing with the second harmonic universe and Terra, many of the visitors to our planet right now that you hear people talk about in like alien visitation and all of these kind of things, and some people don't think they're real because they can't imagine where they could come from. We know that they're not on Mars. We have, telescopes up there. We'd see them. Well, a lot of them, and most of them, are coming from the second harmonic universe. That's why you can send anything you want up in space to try to find life here. You're looking in the wrong harmonic universe, so you probably won't find it. You have to go into this harmonic universe to find it. So what happened a very long time ago on the planet called Terra, about 560 million years ago, there was a race of beings seated on this planet. The race was called the Turanician, and they were a very, very special race. They were kind of like the babies of the universe. The Turanician race was created by taking the genetic strains of all of the other type of beings that existed within all of the other dimensional systems and harmonic universes, taking them and splicing together the best of the best in order to form a super prototype. And what the beings who created us wanted to create was a species that could embody not only a soul, but an oversoul. It could embody the consciousness of 12 of the 15 dimensions. Most body forms, either here or in the second harmonic universe, can only embody within them a certain amount of energy identity. After a certain amount of energy identity is added in, the gene code can't tolerate anymore, and that's when the form would transmute and the consciousness would move into and evolve into a state of pure consciousness being, where it no longer needed a biology. The Turanician race was created to be a living library for the 15-dimensional matrix. It would contain the gene codes of 12, within biology, it would contain 12 levels of dimensional systems. And there were contributors of, I think they said about several 100 million different species contributed gene code product to create this new species. This species was viewed as godlings. We were created to eventually become creator gods. And we were revered highly by those other extraterrestrial and second harmonic civilizations who wanted to see themselves be able to expand and evolve beyond their own potentials of their species. So we were created with a lot of high hopes. And the Turanicians are who we originally were. And this is a surprise to most people, because most people don't even know the second harmonic universe exists. So about 560 million years ago, the universe got together, if you want to look at it that way. Different biologies got together and contributed their genetic material to create this super race of beings. And they succeeded. They created the Turanician race. They were second harmonic beings. There were gender delineations at certain periods of time. There were other periods of time when there was no gender to them. They did not reproduce by mammalian means as we do. They produced through energy replication. They didn't need to do the mammalian thing. They were a very, very special breed in the sense that they had 12 strands of DNA. We have 2 strands of DNA. Can you imagine what it might mean to have the potentialities of 12 strands? What abilities would that give us? What would our minds be like? What would our comprehension, our power, what would we be like with 12 strands? Compared to what we know ourselves as now, we would be godlike. We would have abilities that we could only dream of having now. And that is what the Turanician race did have. And for many, many hundreds of thousands of years, they evolved very well. They were created to be the guardians for the planet Terra. They were in charge of making sure the energy balances of the whole planetary system stayed intact. They were responsible for creating harmonious relationships with the other galaxies and the other planets in the galaxies of the second harmonic universe, because there were many. Unlike it is here in the first harmonic universe within our solar system, within the Terran solar system, there were many active extraterrestrial civilizations, and it was just a much larger intergalactic community there. The Turinicians were raised to become mediators between species because they had the genetic codes that should enable them to be able to identify with every species. So they had a big job to play. They were supposed to be guardians. They were supposed to be mediators. They were really supposed to help the harmonious evolution of all species in the universe. Well, they evolved for quite a long time. They evolved for about 10 million years there. But there were also a lot of things happening in their culture. I won't spend a lot of time on that tonight because it gets into, just like we have little politics things happening here, they had it happening there too on planetary levels. There were certain groups from other planetary systems that didn't like what was going on in one place, and there was a lot of conflicts and those kind of things. At certain points in the evolution of the Turinicium, there were other extraterrestrial forces that weren't originally wanting to participate in the Turinicium experience, in the experiment of creating the Turinicium, that decided they wanted to take it in their own direction. So they came and they interbred with some of them. They distorted the gene code of the original Turinicium. And because of that distortion, there was a certain clarity of consciousness that was lost by the Turinicium. Some of their race began to digress. They began to lose touch with, they had a consciousness that felt total at one-ment with God. And it was a state of love and joy and beauty that's very hard to describe. When they got involved with some of the other extraterrestrial groups that did not have that high of a gene code, it reduced their own. And it also reduced their ability to identify that strongly with the God presence, with the harmonious operations of the universe. So some of them evolved into a species called the Atlanteans. Not the Atlanteans, but Atlanteans. There's only one T in that name. That was where our original race memories of Atlantis actually came from. It came from Harmonic 2 in Atlantia. They began to have problems with what we would term here ego. They began to see themselves as very powerful, and they began to see power as something not to be used just in love and in service to the universe, but as something that they could collect and use against other beings. There was a large group of them in power in the Atlantean civilization. There was a group of them called the Templar Solar Initiates, who were appointed as the guardian keepers of certain of the energy dynamics of planet Terra. It was a very, very sacred position, and it was given to them by something called the Sirian Council from the planetary star systems of Sirius. They had given them, because the ones from Sirius were part of the parentage of the Turinicium race, and they had entrusted their children with this very, very sacred job. Well, the Templar Solar Initiates goofed up big time, to put it mildly. Our Atlantean memories, which we all have at some level, deep down in our gene code, are the memories of what the Turinicium did to Terra in their abuse of power. And what they did was they used certain crystalline technologies, which are chelantic technologies, as was discussed in some of the other classes that I gave. They used them in a way that caused implosions and then explosions within the energetic grid of planet Terra. Part of planet Terra, not the whole thing, but part of it broke off. Its energetic form dismantled instead of being together. When a planet or a being begins to dismantle itself energetically, that is the opposite of evolution. It is de-evolution. It is moving backwards and digressing into something less than what it was, rather than evolving into something that it was supposed to become.
Can you stop and fix that?
You want to stop?
It's okay. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Well, it's blinding us now.
Is it-
Blinding you?
We'll take a break and fix the light.
Okay.
Okay. All right. We were discussing before our short break there how the Turinicium race from the second harmonic universe began to digress and abuse power, and how because of that abuse of power that the planet Terra underwent a tragedy where a part of its substance was literally blown apart. Now, where did that substance go? It left the second harmonic universe it dismantled itself in energy terms, and it fell in vibration. It fell in speed. Its particles began to pulse slower. It ended up in the first harmonic universe. The fragments of Terra became our solar system. And there are 12 planets. One of them imploded a long time ago. It was called Maldak. And we have an asteroid belt now, I believe, where that once was. There's another planet that hasn't been discovered yet, and it's called Nibiru. And that's considered basically the 12th planet. And the sun is also considered a planet. So when the fragment came off of Terra from the second harmonic universe, it came into the first harmonic universe, and it created our Big Bang. The numbers are a bit off as far as where our scientists think the Big Bang occurred. It did occur, but not exactly for the reasons they think. And the planet existed before that Big Bang occurred. But what we are calling our solar system and the planets here were actually part of the planet Terra from the second harmonic universe. So our universe came into being this way, our solar system came into being this way, not our galaxy, just our solar system. The souls of the people who were on that portion of Terra when it exploded and disintegrated, they were killed. But when their bodies are killed, where does their consciousness go? Because they were part of an explosion, the energy structures, what we call particite grids, of their bodies and of their consciousness were also ripped apart. They dropped in vibration. They also ended up down here in the first harmonic universe. And if it were not for what was attempted and succeeded after that occurrence, those souls would have become part of what's called the unified field of energy within dimensions 1, 2, and 3. They would have become the firmament and the substance that other species would evolve with and through, rather than retaining a sentient identity of their own. They would lose all complete orientation of consciousness as a Turinicium. And they would start their evolutionary process from a lower level than they originally started it in the first place. Because the evolutionary strain of the Turinicium did not start down here. It started in the second harmonic universe. They were thrown all the way back down to the first, and they would have had to start basically as subatomic particles that make up, basic matter substance here. In order to preserve the strain of the Turinicium, and also in order to salvage those souls, instead of making them begin again as something that they were intended to be much better than at the time, much higher level of evolution, there was an experiment tried, and it was called the Turinicium 2 experiment. Now I'll get into this a little bit in a minute. Just want to see if I'm jumping ahead a little, because I think I might be. We'll go back real quick to the Turiniciums from Terra, the Turinicium 1 experiment. These are some of the genetic contributors to the race. From harmonic 3, which is the 7, 8, and 9, there are something called the Lyrans. Now, they're in a state of being that is not physical as we know physical. It's almost plasmoid, where it's kind of like a gaseous, liquidous type substance, but they are fully conscious and sentient, even much more than we are, yet is not a type of physical existence that we would identify as physical. Well, the harmonic 3 Lyrans were basically the founders. They came up with the idea for the whole Turinicium experiment, and they are the ones that kind of motivated other beings within the universal structures and within the other harmonic universes to participate in this experience. And they served as overseers for the Turinicium of harmonic 2. Now, in harmonic 2, there were many different populations on different planets there. They used names that we are familiar with here to give us an idea of the orientation of how, when we see a star system up here in our skies, there's a consciousness affiliated with that, and it has a connection to a series of planets and consciousness within the second harmonic universe. So they use names that are familiar to us, like the Sirian star system, the Pleiades. Those are our names. They use them so we understand the connection. All right, so in harmonic 2, in D4, 5, and 6, there were also Sirian beings, what would be considered consciousness that are connected to our planets, our Sirian planetary systems. They were called Anunnaki. The Anunnaki were part of the genetic contributors to the Tournissium race. They were also part of the teachers and overseers for the Tournissium until they evolved to become sentient and, adult in their own right. So we had a very strong, as Tournissium, we had a very strong relationship with the Syrian Anunnaki in the second harmonic universe. The Palladians were also part of the genetic contributors to our Tournissium race. The Lyran Elohim were also part of it, and the Elohim appear in our biblical stories. They are beings. They are of an extraterrestrial nature. They came out of the Harmonic 3 Lyran founders. They're one of the first forms created in Harmonic 2 by the Lyran founders, and they are very godlike compared to even the Tournissians. They contributed quite a bit to our genetic makeup. So they had a very vested interest in how our species evolved. You have a question?
No, I just want to make a point here. The Elohim in Hebrew literally means those that came from above.
Does it?
Yeah.
That's what his translation is.
Right. Okay, so we are directly genetically related to the Elohim. There were also beings in Harmonic 2 from what we would consider the Orion Vega star systems. They contributed genetic material. Also from the Andromeda, the Arcturan, and many others. There are many other systems we don't even have names for to compare to what they have there. But we have many, many genetic contributors. But these are some of the main ones. And why they want us to understand that, they want us to understand that when we look up into the sky, and when we see our stars and see our Palladian clusters and our Sirian planets, there's a direct energetic relationship to the consciousness that exists on those planets in the second harmonic and our gene code. We are basically an extraterrestrial gene code. And that is very amazing to many people because we're taught to believe that extraterrestrials don't exist. And when it comes down to that, it's saying we don't exist because we are the extraterrestrials. We just happen to be residing for the last many millions of years on planet Earth. It is important to understand our connection to the stars because it's not just a hypothetical thing. It's not just an astrology thing. It's a literal thing that's happening in our gene code. And a part of our genes, in the little tiny filaments that compose our genes, vibrate in the same way that certain of those star clusters in our skies vibrate. There's a direct energetic link, and it helps us to create a sense of home when we realize that. We start to feel really connected to the universe when you start to realize that part of your own self. And you can feel it. It's an intuitive thing, but you can feel it there once you start working with it. So these are some of the contributors to the Tournissium 1 gene code. Okay? And as I said before, they were created to embody the full oversoul. And we were supposed to hold the cellular memory records of 12 of the 15 dimensions. So we were created to be a pretty awesome guardian race. And that's kind of nice. It's a lot nicer to realize that than to think that, gee, we were apes and we grew up to be this for some reason. You know, there was a purpose to this. There's a purpose to our whole species. And we haven't gotten rid of that purpose. Whether or not we acknowledge where we came from, that purpose still lives within ourselves. And it will still move us forward in time. And if we become more aware of that purpose, we can make that moving through time toward what we were supposed to become happen more quickly. Okay, the Tournissium 1 race evolved on planet Terra in the second harmonic for about 10 million years. And they had, upsurgences, points where it was their heights, and then they digress a little, then they come up again. And the final digression was when they blew part of the planet apart and ended up down here. Basically, the ones that were left on the planet Terra were migrated to other planets because the planet was made uninhabitable. It went through pole reversal, it went through conditions, energetically speaking, that its climate, you could not live on a planet that had gone through what Terra had gone through at that time. So most of the Tournissium had been migrated into other second harmonic planets before the explosion took place because they knew it was coming and they couldn't stop it. The ones who stayed are the ones who ended up here. They're the ones who basically became us. Okay? Okay, and it was about 550 million years ago, I believe they said, that Terra went through this explosion, so 550 million years ago is really when the planets in our solar system entered this harmonic universe. Okay, after our planet had been, let's say, created here, or relocated here is more like it, after Earth, Terra, which is, we are still Terra, but they delineate us now as Earth, being a part of what Terra was. After Earth had ended up here, it was not possible to have life on the planet for quite a long time. It took time before even green things could grow, or any of that. Firmament had to be built up. It takes a while for a planet to stabilize itself where it can sustain life after it goes through something like that. About 250 million years ago, the planet became able to sustain life, and it became a valuable piece of real estate to the beings in the Harmonic 2 universe. There were large numbers of them. Now, they had all cooperated on this Turinician experiment, and many of them were very disgusted with the whole experiment because they saw how badly it turned out. There were certain races that did not want to see this experiment go again. They did not want this race restarted because of all the trouble we'd caused in Harmonic 2. They said, it was a bad race, the genetic strain didn't work, and they just wanted the territory of Earth now for their own experiments, for, creating other types of life forms. And there were others, the Syrians among them, and the Elohim among the strongest supporters, that said, no, we want this race to be reseeded again. We'll do it differently. We'll make it happen more slowly, where not so much power is given so quickly. We'll guard the strains to make sure that this distortion in the genetic code doesn't happen. But this race should be able to grow again. And there was a big division in our original genetic contributors. Some of them did not want to continue. Others did. And there was a war that took place over planet Earth, whether or not this race would be reseeded to give the consciousness, the souls that had ended up down here from that implosion, a chance to re-evolve back into what they had been. If that chance was not given us, we would evolve as consciousness, but we would never become what we had started out being. We would be kind of lost in the fields of time to evolve into all sorts of different forms. And it's like losing the mold that you were made from. It's a sad path for a soul who had that level of cognition once. When you knew yourself as a Tornician, to find yourself as a piece of rock on planet Earth, and having no clue as to how to ever put your consciousness back together again into what you were, is a very sad predicament. And the saddest part is the people involved, the souls involved in that, wouldn't even know it. They wouldn't have the level of consciousness to understand what had happened to them. Because we were loved by many of our parents from the Harmonic 2 universe, they fought a war. They said, we are going to reseed them here, and we are going to give this species a chance to come back to what it was, the ones who had fallen out of the species. Because some of the Turinicians evolved just fine on other planets in the second harmonic. We'd call them extraterrestrials now, but they were actually us. But the ones that ended up down here, we were loved enough to where we were given a second chance. The Syrian councils were primarily responsible for this, and they work also through the first harmonic Syrian star system. There are levels of activity taking place in the Sirius star system. There are civilizations that exist there, but they're cloaked. They're in the third dimension, or in the first harmonic universe with dimensions 1, 2, 3, but they're off just a little bit frequency-wise, where we would have to know the frequency keys in order to go there and find them, but they are there. They're even in our first harmonic universe. Some of them are Anunnaki, which were Syrian strains. The Anunnaki are a Syrian root race from the second harmonic universe. The Anunnaki were appointed as one group of overseers to watch this experiment once the Earth territory had been won. The Elohim were also another group of overseers who did the same, and all of them worked through the Lyran councils of the founders in D7. They worked with them and under the guidance of them. The Pleiades, at certain points, did not want to continue this experiment. They abandoned us for a while, and they fought with the Syrians over letting us grow. And eventually, the Syrians and the Pleiadians came to an agreement where they decided, okay, we'll go for this, we'll be supportive, and we'll help this species to re-evolve. So the Pleiadians are now on our side, if you want to look at it that way. They are helping us to evolve. And at this point in time, there are many other things happening with the Earth, which I'm not going to go into them, that's a whole other class, but all of these parents that we came from, their species are still alive and well as we speak in the second harmonic universe. Many of them are sending representatives to communicate with us and to help us through the times that are coming, because we're facing some interesting changes on a planetary level, and not just because of our own civilization. So there, did you have a question? What?
Since Tara exploded and formed our solar system, and the assumption is that Earth was just one piece of that explosion.
Yes.
So are there beings on the other planets in some of the situations? Are we congregated here on Earth?
Okay, right now we're congregated here on Earth. In other space-time coordinates in the first harmonic universe, after that explosion took place and the solar system here was formed, at various times on various other planets in our solar system here, there were life and civilization evolving. Some of them were turned